Hello, my name is Stuart Hanson and I'm the Managing Partner at Direct Mediation Services and an accredited family mediator with the Family Mediation Council. During the last few months, we've created a number of videos to help clients understand the mediation process better. In today's video, we are looking at the Mediation, Information and Assessment Meeting, often referred to as the MIAM. The MIAM is the first meeting that you will have with your mediator. It usually lasts up to an hour and it's your opportunity to talk about your case. Your ex-partner won't be present at this meeting. It will just be you and the mediator. Before your first meeting with your mediator, you'll be sent a link by our admin team. This link will take you to a form which will ask you for personal information. It will only take you a matter of a few minutes to complete and will allow your mediator to spend time in the session talking about the things that are important to you instead of taking down name, dates of birth, etc. So it's really important that you complete this before you have your meeting with your mediator. Many people worry that they won't know the answers to the questions the mediator asks. All questions are based on your life and the issues that you're currently facing. We have recorded a MIAM so that you can see the type of questions you will be asked. In the video that follows, the role of Cindy is played by an actress. Hi, thank you for taking my call. My name is Stuart and I'm a family mediator here at Direct Mediation Services. Can I just check, what is your name please?
Cindy.
Thanks Cindy. I've just had a look. I can see that you've completed part 1 of the MIAM form online. And just in case you don't remember, MIAM stands for Mediation, Information and Assessment Meeting. So today it's just you and me having a talk about your case and for me to learn a little bit more about it so that we can prepare for a future mediation session, hopefully, if mediation is appropriate. Okay? There's nothing for you to be worried about. Today's process is confidential, so it's just between you and me. I'm not going to speak to your ex-partner, to your solicitor, to your magistrate or judge or anybody else, okay? The only time that I would break that confidentiality would be if you admit to me that you've committed a criminal act, okay? Or that there's a safeguarding issue, and that might be for you or anybody else that's mentioned during the mediation process or during the MIAM today. But on both of those occasions, I won't be doing it in secret. I'll be confirming with you, Cindy, that the details of what you've told me and explaining to you why I have to make the referral. So it might be to social services or it might be to the police.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. If you don't understand the question I'm asking you today, don't be worried. I'll do my best to explain it to you. And if you wanted to know the reasons why we ask questions, you can ask those as well. I know that it's a pretty daunting experience coming and having a MIAM because nobody ever wants to be in this position and it's very upsetting for a lot of people. So if you want to have a break at any point during this process, let me know and we can have a 5-minute break or take as long as you need because we have a full hour for this appointment, okay?
That's what I was going to ask. How long?
Yeah, that's a good question. It lasts up to an hour. So that gives you enough time for us to talk about the case and for me to ask you questions and to get a full picture about what's been going on in your life. And as I can see in Patsy, I think you call Patsy Patch, don't you? Yeah, in your child's life. So, and your life as well. So this is, just remember I'm impartial. So I'm not on anybody's side. I'm on the side of the family trying to get this matter sorted out between the two of you.
So my husband will have a separate mediation then?
Yeah, that's a really good question. A lot of people think that today their ex-partner will be coming on the call, but no, today is just you and me. Later, I'll just explain the process to you. Today you'll have your MIAM, your Mediation Information and Assessment meeting. If we feel that mediation is appropriate and you want to continue on to a mediation session, we would then invite your ex-partner, Paul, to a MIAM, so a similar meeting like this, and then he would talk about his experiences about what's been going on and give us his side of the story, basically about what's been happening and what he hopes to achieve in mediation. If he says no, he doesn't want to go to mediation, then we would issue something called the mediation certificate, and then in your case, I can see that it's a child case. You would then make the application to court if you wanted to.
Sorry, what case?
Child case. So to do with child arrangements. Sorry, child arrangements. So
Okay.
and if he does want to go to mediation and it is appropriate, he has his MIAM, and then after that we both invite you to a mediation session, and that can be online or in person. At the moment, as you're aware, most mediation sessions, due to health restrictions and the COVID pandemic, are all conducted online for everybody's safety. There are two types. Sorry.
What about my daughter? Will she have to have a separate mediation session, or does she have to have one? What will be the situation with her?
Well, what we'll do is I'm going to start asking some questions, and it's a really good question to ask. And we'll come to that later on in the MIAM today, and because I will be asking you questions, and I'll be taking down answers from you to ensure that we have a full record about what's been going on and the important things you're going to tell me about Patch. Okay? You have to give my fingers a few minutes sometimes to catch up. Remember that I have to record the answers that you give down on a form similar to the one that you filled in before today's meeting. So I might have to stop you occasionally and say to you, okay, Cindy, thank you very much. I just need to have a few moments to catch up. It's nothing worrying. I just have to make a full written record of what's being said, because it's very important that we go on to the mediation session understanding your case as well as we can. Okay?
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to start off today with safeguarding questions. Okay, and some of these questions are not easy to answer, but it's really important, if you feel that you can, to give me full answers. Okay. So the first question that I've got here.
Can I just ask, what do you mean by safeguarding?
Safeguarding is where we're looking at the welfare of yourself or any third parties. Maybe it's your daughter, maybe it's Paul, your ex-partner. We just have to have a full picture to see basically if mediation is appropriate, because we don't want to put you at risk by by having mediation. So we're just trying to learn about if there are any significant risks that we have to take into account going forward. Okay. The first question is about domestic abuse or violence. So I want you to think back to the relationship that you have with Paul, your ex-partner, in the past and up to the present date, because it's important what's happening now as well. Is there any domestic abuse or violence that you want to tell me about?
Well, there wasn't in the past, but recently, in the last 6 months, he's just been drinking more, and he's been very abusive when he drinks. Yes. Verbally abusive to me and my daughter.
Right. So you're both living. You're still in the family home together at the moment.
We are presently, yes. We are. And that's been quite difficult.
Well, do you want me to record it that there is domestic abuse? Do you want me to make a record of what's been going on the file?
Well, yes. I think we should. definitely.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll make a record. Do you think that you need any support at all?
Well, I think, I mean, his behaviour is just deteriorating, really.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel at risk at all?
Well, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
I do. If he's drinking heavily, then yes, because he's not really in control of his actions.
Mm-hmm.
That's becoming quite worrying.
And has there been, obviously, it must be, you know, has there been any physical violence as well at all?
No, not physical violence, no. But it can feel very threatening.
Mm-hmm. And have you spoken to, you know, we can, you know, signpost you to agencies that can help, such as Women's Aid, if you feel that you want support. And there's also, if you do feel at risk, then I would suggest that it's important to make sure that you and your daughter are protected, and that you obviously ring the emergency services or find a way of protecting yourself, okay? Or social services if you feel that there's a need for them to be involved, okay?
Well, we had a conversation about his drinking, and I told him, you know, that he's got to stop, and you know, we can't go on like this. Yes. So, as we're sharing the house at the moment, and I'm very concerned about my daughter, and I think he is too. But he's just, you know, acting. He's just not acting. He's just not behaving well. So through this whole situation. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's always paramount importance that you protect yourself and your daughter, and that's physically and mentally. Okay. Yeah. So, you know, if you do need me to send you information about agencies that can help, let me know, and I can send them to you by email following this call.
I think I should have them. It would be good to have them.
No, that's fine. I will certainly.
I'm hoping the conversation we had has brought into his senses a bit. But
yes.
If it doesn't, then I may need help.
Okay. Well, we're here, and you the number that you call to book the appointment, you can talk to our office staff, and they can give you contact numbers. But of course, you can always give me a call back and ask for details about how to access these services for support.
Okay, thank you.
I think you said that social services weren't involved at the moment. Is that correct?
Yes, we haven't had any social services involved.
And in the past at all, has there been any social services?
No.
No. Okay. And you've talked to me about, the concerns you have about Paul's drinking. Are there any other kind of welfare concerns that I should be made aware of?
Not really. I can't think of anything at the moment. I mean, that just really encompasses a lot of things. You know, when somebody's drinking, it makes everything very difficult at home.
Well, if the situation changes, do let us know, because it's very important that we know how things are progressing, and if things do deteriorate, mediation may become not appropriate. So you've got our numbers. Do always keep in touch with us and keep us abreast of any developments in the situation at home for you. Okay. Okay, Cindy, we're going to move on to another section, and we're talking this time about the different types of mediation and looking at whether mediation is appropriate. Okay. Are you okay to continue, or do you want to have a break? You're okay. You're okay. So I've got to ask you a question, but I've got to hear it from you. Are you willing to go ahead with mediation?
Yes.
Okay. And we've got two different types of mediation, which you might have seen on the video in part 1 that you watched. But I'll just remind you that there's two types. So we talk about face-to-face mediation, and face-to-face mediation is when all of us, so you, me and Paul, are in a room, okay? And that can be a virtual room, so it could be like this, and added a person into the call, or it could be physically, we're in the offices of our mediation company, and we are all sitting around a table, so it's a round table discussion. Okay. So it can be virtual, and it can also be in person. So they're the two types. There's also Shuttle. Okay. So this can be obviously again in person or online, but in Shuttle you won't have any direct contact with Paul. Okay. So you would speak to me about the situation, and you would have your proposals about what you want to see going ahead, and what you're hoping to achieve. And you may say, "This is what I'd like," and then I'd take that proposal, and then I'd discuss it with Paul and get his feedback, and then bring you that feedback from Paul to you. So it's me basically going between the two of you with your proposal and his feedback, and vice versa. Okay.
I personally would prefer you should be there with both of us.
So you want both parties in the same room, even though it's been very difficult recently?
Yeah, I think the way he is, it would be better if the third person was there, personally.
So all three of us, so I just wanted to check, so all three of us would be in the call, like we would have Paul with us today, and we'd be discussing it as a group together.
Yeah, because otherwise I don't think we'll get anywhere.
No, okay, no, that's fine. Thank you very much. I've got it written down here that it's child arrangements that you want to discuss, and I just want to double check that you're not wanting to discuss about the finances, about the family home or anything like this at this point.
Well, there are concerns about the family home. We're not quite sure what's going to happen financially.
And do you want to discuss, what's going to happen in the future financially, about what you're going to do with the family home? It may be that you stay in the family home with Patch, or it may be that, there's a huge number of variations of what can happen. Is that something you want to discuss at this point?
Well, yes, because I would like, that's one of the arguments that we're having at the moment.
Okay.
Because I would like to stay in the home with my daughter. I don't want my daughter to be disturbed.
Yes.
She already is, but I would like this process to be as smooth as possible for her. And staying in the home would help that.
Yes.
He travels a lot for his work. So, I don't think it's so important for him to be there. He's not home that much. Anyway, so that's one of
that's really helpful to know. So I'll mark it not as a child case, but something we call all issues, and that includes financial and child arrangements as well. Okay.
Yeah.
We go on to talk about, obviously you talked about, your daughter, Patch, and I want to talk to you about something called child inclusive mediation. And I don't want you to worry, we're not going to have Patch in the room with us. It's a more discreet approach. So child inclusive mediation would be appropriate, or potentially appropriate, for Patch, because from what I can see from her date of birth, she's 13 years old, isn't she?
That's right.
So knowing 13-year-olds, she probably has her own opinions, and she has, she probably listens less and less to adults in her life now than she did before.
Yeah, we're having some issues with her at the moment.
So there's some really interesting information about child inclusive mediation, and we have that on our website. So there's an article I've written about it there. It only happens if both you and Paul agree, and also Patch, that this is something that everybody wants to do. And it would happen after session 1, possibly, or session 2. It depends how many sessions you have of mediation, but normally it's after session 1. That, you know, a specially trained mediator, so it wouldn't be me, it would be an independent mediator who works with us, would, if everybody was in agreement, would speak to Patch about her wishes and feelings about family life. There won't be any direct questions like, oh, do you want to live with your mum or with your dad? It's more holistic in its approach. So is that something that you say yes to now, or do you want to consider it before the next meeting?
I'd have to speak to Patch and see if it was something that she could do, because I'm not sure at the moment whether she would.
Speak to a stranger,
in a way, I think I'd quite like her to. I think it might be good for her to speak to her party.
Well, it helps have her voice be heard within the discussions in mediation, really. And that's what we aim to include, so that you're making decisions, both you and Paul together, knowing how Patch is feeling about certain issues.
So she would be speaking on her own with the mediator?
That's correct.
Well, in theory, I would, you know, I would like that to happen, but I'd need to speak to her and find out if it's something that she would, you know, agree to.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'll put considering at the moment on the form, okay? Yeah. We have 2 choices of how to mediate at the moment, because of the issues that we're currently facing. All mediation is online, and it does allow things to happen a lot quicker than if we have to arrange in normal times a face-to-face meeting. That's because, you know, we're not having to book rooms, and we're not having, and people are more flexible about being online. So, but at the moment, that's the way that we have to be, okay? But if the situation changes and, you know, there's no longer a risk, we can move to face-to-face actually in person if you wanted to, okay? So this is where I have a text box, and I type up a kind of our general discussion that we have now about what's been going on, and for me to just ask a few questions, okay? It's obviously a very difficult time for everybody concerned in the family, and hopefully we can find a way forward that everybody can take on board, really, and that's the best outcome that we can have in mediation. I'm not, as I said at the beginning, I'm impartial, so I'm not on anybody's side. I'm on everybody's. I'm there to help you find, hopefully, if we can, a solution, but I won't be making any decisions, okay? And that's really important. You can't say, well, Stuart, I'll let you make the decision. That doesn't happen, okay?
What are the actual decisions you would be making, though?
No, that's a good question. So we're looking at maybe future child arrangements, okay, for you and Paul to spend time with Patch. And that may be now, you know, in the family home, and also about looking to the future when you're living separately and apart from one another. Okay. And that can be something we can discuss. Other issues in mediation we can look at, you know, as we've discussed, the financial. At this point, I just want to express that nothing is legally binding and nobody's making you do anything, okay? So you're coming to mediation as a voluntary, it's a voluntary process. If there's something that you don't want to do, you don't have to do it, okay? So we're not forcing, you know, if you feel pressured, then don't be, because it's your mediation equally. And if you don't agree to something, that's fine, we can say that. But the most important thing is that we try and think about, in this case, about Patch and about what's best for her, and try and put our feelings aside, because it's a very difficult time and emotions can be running very, very high for everyone. So I always say, let's always focus on your daughter here and see what arrangements we can make without causing any distress to the family, if that's possible. Okay.
Well, in the past, she's had a very good relationship with her father.
But
of course, lately, because of his behaviour, that's deteriorated. And that's what I've been trying to explain to him. You know, that he's not helping himself. Because I want that good relationship to continue. I don't want there to be any hostility between them.
And that might come out in the child inclusive mediation, and that might, you know, and of course you can express this in the mediation should the case go to mediation with Paul. Okay. So if we're thinking about what's happening at the moment, how are you dealing with Patch in the family home now? Are you living in separate bedrooms? You know, are you kind of Monday, Wednesday, Friday, one parent has Patch, or how are you organising things at the moment?
Well, at the moment we're all living together, but my husband and I are in separate bedrooms, and Patch obviously has her own room.
Okay.
You know, but we're in a situation where, you know, he can't really afford to go somewhere else. So
yes,
it's very difficult. So.
And how are you spending time with Patch? Are you spending time together as a family still, or separately?
Well, not really, because he's working most of the time and works very late, and then drinking when he gets home. So no, he's not spending time with her. I'm spending as much time as I can, but obviously she's at school. I work. So, and that's becoming really challenging because she actually needs more time with me. I know she does, but I can only give. I'm trying to give as much as I can, you know, when I get home from work. But I'm not getting home from work till 8 o'clock at night. And
so, where is Patch when you're at work? Is she with a grandparent?
Yeah, she goes to my mother's.
Okay.
Thank goodness my mother lives locally, and she goes to my mother's for a few hours, which has worked out really well. And I pick her up on the way home from work.
So are you looking for Paul to take a more active role in kind of child arrangements going forward?
Well, I think in honesty, it's going to be very difficult for him to see her during the week because of his work commitments and his travelling.
Okay.
I think it's really going to be a weekend situation that's going to work better for him. Maybe every other week. I was, you know, thinking every other weekend.
Yeah.
But at the moment, she's not feeling, I've discussed this with her. She's not too happy about that because of what's going on at the moment. She doesn't really want to be with him that much.
Okay.
And of course, I want to see her at the weekends because it's the only time that I get to have quality time with her. Because
So from what I hear you say is that a potential option is alternate weekends. And then have you thought about when maybe, and holidays, do you see the holidays being split equally, or how do you see it?
Well, she would probably be with me more than Paul.
Yeah. And does Paul?
I really don't know how Paul is going to work it out with his work commitment. It's always been me that's really looked after her more than Paul, because he travels such a lot. So of course he gets he'll have 2 weeks where he could definitely be with her, which we discussed. But we'd have to look at Christmas and Easter and things like that, because I think we'd have to play it by ear, to be honest. I don't know if we'd be able to do anything set in stone because of the way his work commitments are.
So at the moment, so I've just, so that I've got it clear for the record, that currently, you're going to spend alternate weekends with Patch.
Well, that's what I think would work out best. Yeah.
And do you want that to be starting now, or are you thinking about that's when, you're hoping that Paul will move out of the family home? When do you foresee the kind of contact? Because obviously contact's important for Patch to have it with both of you. But when do you think the arrangements that you've described will start?
Well, I'm not sure, because at the moment, we've been discussing where he's going to go. I've had quite a lot of resistance to that. So that's really where I need some help.
Okay. So looking about putting a plan in place, hopefully, that both of you can work with.
Yeah, that he can move out somewhere while this is all going on until we get everything decided, because it's just causing more problems.
Okay.
And Patch is getting more upset. So I really think it would be better if she had some distance from him.
Right.
And so did I. So we could, look at things more objectively.
At the moment, is there any possibility that he could have contact on alternate weekends, as you said, at the moment, when you're all living in the same house, that he takes responsibility for Patch for maybe every other weekend, so you get, and either time off to do other things? What do you think about that as a possibility?
Well, if she'll agree to that.
Yes, of course. Yeah.
At the moment, she's a bit resistant. She doesn't want to spend a lot of time with him. So I think that would yes. I think if he would go off at the weekend, it would, at least we'd have some space. I'd have some space in the house without him being there every other weekend. Because that's when we're all there together, and that's when it's most.
Does he have parents nearby where he could go and take Patch to see his parents and maybe spend a weekend there? Or would you be looking at moving out of the family home for a weekend maybe and going and see your mum?
Well, I don't really want to do that. I don't want to move out.
No.
I don't want to have any issues that can't get back in.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure, we're there. His parents live quite far away. So that's not. Yeah, I mean, it's possible he could take Patch and go and see them at a weekend.
Any other family members that would be available? Does he have a sister or a brother? That he's close to, and that Patch.
Well, he does. Nobody lives nearby.
Right. Okay. So it's all of a distance. Okay.
Yeah.
These kind of things. Okay, that's fine. Well, we can hopefully discuss this further when we go to the mediation. Just to clarify that post, when you're both living your separate lives, you're looking to have alternate weekends, of course, if Patch is in favour, and looking at him spending maybe 2 weeks in the summer. Is that right, in the longer holiday with Patch?
Yes, and maybe some of the holidays, if he can arrange it. I'd be agreeable to that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm hoping that eventually Patch will too,
when of course.
Things settle down a bit more.
And when we talk about travel, how do you feel about travel, let's say if you wanted to go on holiday, let's say to Spain?
With what do you mean with my husband with Patch? Or with Patch?
It would be just, let's say your husband wanted to take, Patch abroad. How would you feel about that?
No, I mean, I think that would be fine. You know, Patch is 13. She's not a little child.
No.
I think I'd be fine with that. You know, I don't think he's going to do anything stupid.
No.
I just think the situation is getting on top of everybody.
Yeah.
Because we're in the house together.
And thinking about, we've discussed travel and things like that, about Christmas. You mentioned earlier about Christmases and special days. Are you looking to alternate, Christmas and other religious festivals, or how do you foresee child arrangements in the future for those? For example, your birthday, Mother's Day, Patch's birthday.
Well, I'm happy to divide that fairly. Obviously I'd like Patch to be with me on my birthday, and she can be with her father on his birthday. We can share the Christmases and the holidays, high days and holy days. I'm happy to do that.
Okay, so I made a note of that. Are there any other child arrangement issues that you want to discuss at all at this point?
Well, I don't think so. I think that's covered most of it at this point.
If you do think of anything, let me know and we'll add it to the record. Sometimes later on, when you've sat back and thought about today's meeting, things do crop up, and you can send us an email and we can just add it to the file, or you can give me a call. Okay.
Right.
It's
really that I'm concerned about, and
of course.
Go along with this. So.
And if we're thinking about the finances, remind me, how long were you married to Paul?
10 years.
10 years, okay.
We have had, should we change that?
Sorry, let's start again. What did you say?
I said, shall we change that? Can you stop for a minute?
Oh yeah, let's start. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. Right, no, it's always important to get the dates right.
13, okay.
Okay.
So we've been married 15 years.
Okay, that's a good time. Okay, I'll ask you again. Okay, so we're going to move on and talk about the finances now. I just want to, can you just remind me how long you've been married to Paul?
We've been married 15 years.
15 years. Okay, that's classed, as you might know, as a long marriage. I can't give you legal advice about, your entitlement to specific assets, but we'd always advise that if you do have questions about, you want advice, then to seek help from a legal professional, whether that be a solicitor, or you could go to, some people go to the Citizens Advice Bureau. Okay.
Well, I'll obviously be using a lawyer, so.
Okay, that's fine. Well, mediation works really well with lawyers as well. So hopefully this speeds up the process and finds a way forward. With regards to the family home, do you have any ideas what it's worth?
It's probably worth about 750,000. Okay.
And have you had a recent valuation on the property?
No, but looking online at other properties sold recently, in the road, I'd say that was about right. But we haven't had, we're thinking of, obviously we're at this stage, we're about to sort all those things out. But
and it's really important that we have a really good idea about the value of the family home.
I'll put that into motion.
Yeah, that would be good. You can get a professional valuation, or a lot of people contact their 3 local estate agents to find out the price, because we've got 2 things that we have to discuss or think about. Is the price that you are going to put it on the market, and the price that you're actually willing to sell at. because they're two very different things. And I think that's something that we, if you want, we can discuss that in mediation.
Okay.
Is there a mortgage on the property?
Yes, it's about 210,000.
210, okay. And do you know who that is with? Which bank?
It's with the Halifax.
Halifax, okay. And what's the sorry, you said it's 250, didn't you? The outstanding amount.
210.
210, sorry. And what we'll need is a mortgage redemption certificate, so we have all the documentation to when we're putting together the memorandum of understanding and the open financial statement, that we have everything backed up with the relevant documents. So are you on the mortgage? Is it in both names?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay. So maybe in preparation, your homework for, if it goes on to mediation, is to get that document, okay, and so that we can have it ready for when we're having the discussions. Paul may have it all ready if you're speaking with each other, okay. Right. So we have an idea about the property. Have you got any ideas about how you're going to? Is there any proposals you have that I can make note of with regards to the home?
Well, we've discussed, him moving out and what we're going to do.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I don't really want, that hasn't been decided yet, and that's one of the main issues.
I think it's very important to think about. Sorry, I lost you there.
I want to stay there with Patch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm not quite sure how that's going to work out.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's lots of different various scenarios that can be played out. You may have an agreement that when Patch leaves home, let's say at 18 to go to university, hopefully, or to college, or starts work, then you may sell the family home at that point and then split the assets accordingly to whatever you agree. You may be able to take on the mortgage in your own name and then pay out a percentage of the equity, increase the mortgage and give him the, if he's willing to accept whatever the, financial discussions are. So have a think about all the different variants of options that are available to you. I also say, think about very carefully about reality testing these as well, because we've got to make sure that if you do remain in the family home, that you can afford the mortgage and that you can continue and that you can get a mortgage in your name as well. Okay.
Well, I've spoken to my mortgage broker to see, to look at my options and to see if I could afford to do it on my salary.
Yes.
I might just be able to do it. He's actually currently looking into that for me.
Well, that'll help inform your kind of decision-making process as well. You may want to speak to your solicitor about, options that are available to you. Okay. So we have an idea about the property and the value, approximate value, and that, that is in both your names and the outstanding mortgage. Do you have any joint bank accounts?
Yes, we do.
And who's that with?
NatWest.
NatWest. And do you know the balance currently?
Yeah, there's probably about 50,000, something like that,
50,000,
around.
Yeah. Okay. And what we would ask is, sorry?
In the savings,
in the savings between the two of you. Okay.
Yeah, which is tied in, you can't take it out for.
Oh, so these are ISAs, yeah?
Yeah, you get penalties on them.
Okay.
So
and do you have okay, well, I'll take a note of that. There's 50,000 in ISAs in both of your names.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a general joint account at all?
Yeah, we have a current account that we use,
Okay.
for the household, shopping, etc. Yeah.
And what's the balance on that? Is that with NatWest as well?
Yeah, that's about £2,000.
2,000. And is that with NatWest?
Yes, it's also with NatWest.
Okay. Any other joint accounts that you have together?
No.
No. And do you have an account, your own personal account?
No.
No. Okay. And do you have any credit cards or debit cards at all?
Yes, we do.
And are there any debts at all? Are there any outstanding amounts?
There's some debts on them. Yeah.
Okay. And do you know, are they in both names or just in your name?
No, they're in both our names.
Okay. And do you know what the balances are?
I think one is about 5,000.
Yeah.
That was because we used it for a holiday.
Okay. And which credit card is that? Sorry.
It's our NatWest.
Your NatWest credit card. Okay.
Our NatWest Visa.
Okay. Are there any other cards that you have with a debt?
Well, we've got another one, but there's very little debt on that. I think there's about £200. That's the one we use, for shopping.
Okay.
And they pay that monthly.
Okay, that's fine.
It's the other one that we used tend to use for holidays and then pay it off.
Okay, so bigger purchases and for special occasions. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we pay it off.
The second credit card that you just use for every day, is that with NatWest as well?
Yes, they're both with NatWest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any loans at all?
Well, we have a car, which is a lease.
Okay. So is it?
So we change the car every 3 years.
Right. So it's like a hire purchase where you on the third year you exchange for a new one.
Yeah, or you can pay off a balloon payment at the end of it, depending on
take the car. Okay. Is that in both your names? Who's going to have the cars? And has there been any discussion or thoughts about that post separation?
Well, we've discussed that, and because he has a company car, I don't.
Okay.
We decided that I would have the car because obviously I needed more patch as well, and he was in agreement with that.
Okay. And are you proposing to put that in? Is it in both your names at the moment?
At the moment, it is. So that would have to be transferred into my name.
Okay, that's fine. That's important for me to note down as well. Obviously, we need documentation for all these things as well. Do you have any other, what we call sizable assets and things like that? So any priceless paintings, diamond rings, anything that you want to have brought into the kind of discussions?
Well, I have some jewellery that my mother left me. And some things, I have in my engagement ring. And what sort of things are you talking about? Because
so things
I don't think he's going to.
Well, we sometimes what we have to do is a full kind of inventory of items of value of we call tangible assets. So things such as like we've talked about the house. It may also be about if you had a priceless diamond ring worth 50,000. These are things to be taken into consideration as well, because you've had a long marriage, so they're deemed to be or seen to be joint assets of the marriage. Okay.
I only have my engagement ring, which isn't worth 50,000, but we have a couple of paintings, which are worth a little bit of money, maybe 5,000 together.
Okay.
Which we purchased
well, we can talk about the kind of items within the home, and it may be the paintings and other things in mediation, and discuss how these are going to be separated post, when we've organised, what's going on in the future. Okay. Is there, thinking about, just before I forget, pensions? Does anybody have a pension? Any one of you?
Well, we both do. We both have pensions.
Okay. And do you know what it's called the CETV? This is the cash equivalent transfer values of the pension, or maybe you'll probably know yours. Do you know at all? If you don't, we can get that.
I don't at the moment. I'd have to check. I did look into it a couple of years ago.
That's fine.
I'm not sure, but we've both got company pensions.
Okay, well, it's really important when we come to mediation, we know what the cash equivalent transfer value is. So maybe talk to your pension advisor or HR if it's at work, and they'll be able to help you get that. It just gives us a full financial picture of what we're dealing with and organising what's going to happen in the future as well. Is there anything else that you want to tell me about regarding your finances?
Well, I mean, I'll speak to the lawyer about that, I suppose, but it's just, you know, obviously, I earn more money than Paul.
Yes.
So I'm concerned about that and how that's going to work. And I've put more money into the household than Paul. So because I earn more. So, you know, I'm really not sure how that's going to be.
How that's going to be reflected in the kind of your proposal. No, I can understand that that's a difficult situation, and you know, I would, like you've said and correctly already, is go and speak to your solicitor and get legal advice about that. Okay, because what I always say, I always think about bracketed kind of proposals, you know, the worst case scenario, and you know, the ideal situation of what you would like. So I always say it's probably you probably won't get either one of them. You'll probably get something somewhere between. Okay. So what happens next? I'll just explain to you. If there's nothing else that you want to add to the record, I just need to make sure.
No, I
think
okay. At the moment.
What happens next is that we will write to Paul. He will also, if you provided a telephone number, a mobile number, he'll be sent a text. And if you provided an email address, he'll receive an email as well straight away. He has 5 working days to respond to the invitation to mediation. Okay, and that is, you can do that by ringing in, by emailing, by writing to our office. There's lots of different ways of doing it. But it's, you know, it's important that it's your case that you contact our office in 5 working days, which is effectively a week. I often say, you know, obviously we probably missed the post for today, so the post will go out in the post tomorrow. So that's Tuesday, and then he'll receive it on Wednesday. So maybe give him 7 days from Wednesday. That we want to give him enough time to respond. So I normally say give it about a week, okay, and then ring us to see if he's responded positively or negatively to the invitation to mediation. And as I said at the beginning, if he says yes, sorry.
Should I discuss it with him myself?
That's entirely your choice. Sometimes, you know, it depends what your relationship is like, Paul. I can't tell you what to do. If you've said that you sometimes feel quite intimidated by some of the things that have been going on. I think you have to be the judge of that, about whether it will escalate the situation between the two of you or not. It may be that you don't want it to be a shock and that you want to prepare him for the invitation. And that is, you know, that's we can't tell you what to do. So have a think about it, but we'll be writing out, okay, emailing and texting, so that he will certainly know he's been contacted and that there is an invitation to mediation. But he has a limited period of time. He has 5 working days, which is effectively a week, to respond to us saying yes or no. If he says yes, then he'll proceed and have a MIAM like this today. If he says no, then we will issue you with the mediation certificates that you would need if you decide to make an application to the courts. And in this case, it's been identified as an all issues. So you would get a mediation certificate for the child arrangements order. That's often called a C100. Okay, that's the court form that you would complete. And then within that application, you'll see there needs to be a signed, I think it's page 9, a signed page by the mediator, which we would provide you by PDF. Okay. Similarly, there is a application for a financial order, and that again has a slightly different mediation certificate, but we would send you two that you would include in your application to the courts if mediation doesn't go ahead, or you decide, and you can decide at any point that mediation, you may feel it's not working, you can say, Stuart, this really isn't for me, I think it's better that we go to court. And that option is always available to you at any point, or any part of the journey in mediation. Okay.
So just to make it clear, so the mediate for me, just to clarify, so the mediation is, if we're doing this in order to try and agree things without going to court.
Yes, that's right. But you may feel at some point, maybe when you're having the discussions, that it's not working for you, and that there's no pressure for you to stay within mediation, and that court is always an option should you so wish, and that and that's, I'm just explaining that it's available, that option for you.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Are there any other questions that you want to ask me today?
No, I think that's it. Well, regarding lawyers and going to court, so obviously the mediation, if we could agree on things, we both wouldn't need lawyers.
No, that's correct. I always think that it's important that you get a legal opinion. That's my personal view. And we always advise that when you take it to court, let's say for a consent order, whether that be for child arrangements or finances, it's very important that you know your legal rights, because I can give you legal information to both of you, but not legal advice. Okay. So,
So do you think I should have a lawyer? Definitely.
I can't say to you that you should have a lawyer or you shouldn't. There are advantages of getting legal advice, and you may decide, so a lot of people decide just to pay for an hour at the end, but you will need a lawyer if you come to a successful kind of conclusion with regards to the finances and child arrangements, particularly the financial arrangements. You will need a lawyer to draft the financial consent order.
Okay.
That would be a lawyer that both you and Paul, choose. Okay. So it may be impartial, but getting.
So we would use one lawyer between us to do that.
Potentially for the financial consent order. If you agree something about Patch's, child arrangements going forward, there doesn't need to be an order unless you feel that there's a need for an order to be in place, because orders for child arrangements only have to be put in place if the parents can't agree, or if it's in the interest of the child that an order is there, because maybe there's been a history of maybe poor disagreements potentially that are quite serious, because I know that the judges and magistrates say that the most draconian thing to do is to give a family an order, because it becomes legally binding. And children like Patch, they have their own minds and they'll want to do their own things, and an order can be very restrictive for a family, especially when things change so quickly. So it's something to be thought about, whether it's called a no order principle, and that's something to be considered about whether you do need an order for child arrangements. But a lot of people do seek a financial order to go hand in hand with their divorce, so that there's no potential future claims on any assets after the divorce. So you have to think about it, the divorce. Yeah,
that's what I'm concerned about. And if there were problems after the divorce with Patch, with seeing Patch, then could I get an order at that point if I needed to?
Mediation, so, you come to mediation, and then the mediation certificate can be issued, is only valid for 4 months after the last mediation session. So after 4 months, you can't ask for a certificate. So in circumstances like that, you may say, oh, let's try it for a few weeks. And this is what normally happens, is that you put something in place in, let's say, session 1. You trial it for a couple of weeks. You come back to mediation while you're getting the financial documents in your case, and then you can reflect on how that's going and whether that, whether we need to, or whether you wish to make, put an order in place because maybe you're not having, he's restricting your contact with Patch potentially, or vice versa. He may say that he wants an order to protect the time that he spends with Patch.
Okay.
So it's something to be discussed. We can discuss it in mediation but generally speaking, for child arrangements, you're still both the parents of Patch, and hopefully that you can co-parent in the future without the need of a court order being there.
Yeah.
But that's not always, achievable, and we always have that, we can discuss it as we go through mediation, and we're always there. People come every few months to see us to kind of update how child arrangements are going on, because it's not going to be resolved overnight. It's going to be potentially a number of sessions.
How many sessions are there?
Yeah, it really depends how well you and Paul work together. It's a financial and child case, so there are quite a lot of issues, and you have sizable assets. So maybe I'd be looking to having about 3 sessions possibly, and that's 3 sessions of maybe an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how things are going. Okay. So keep in touch, and in about 7 days, give me a call or give my office a call to see if Paul's responded to the invitation to mediation.
Okay.
But thank you very much for taking the time to explain to me about what's been going on, and I wish you all the very best, and I'll speak to you very soon.